Free agency is right around the corner, and if you want to be up to date on all things going on around the Raiders, I promise you this, you're going to know who the Raiders sign by watching this show before you see it on television. Hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, because if you want to know who the best Maxx Crosby replacements are in the open market, I'm about to tell it to you right now here on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be looking at free agent targets at the defensive end and defensive tackle position. Because Rob Leonard is going to be running a new defense, a new 3-4 scheme, I do think, this should also say 2025, running a 3-4 defense this upcoming season, it's going to look a little bit different, right? We've been running a 4-3 in years past. So what I tried to do today, I tried to rank the top 10 defensive linemen that the silver and black should target. We're going to look at defensive ends first, and I have them ranked from 5 all the way down to 1. I decided to sprinkle in a few little honorable mentions there because obviously replacing Maxx Crosby is not going to be easy to do it, and I want to be very clear. You're not going to be able to replace Maxx with just one player, so it's going to take an entire team effort. Then we will get into some of the defensive tackles that I want the silver and black to pursue. If you don't know when the legal tampering period begins, Monday, March 9th at noon Eastern Time. I'm recording this video right now on March 5th. I believe Maxx Crosby will be traded. And I believe Maxx Crosby will be traded before that time there. Because if I'm John Spytek, if I'm Clint Kubiak, I want to know what I have going into the biggest NFL free agency period of my life. In the same breath, the other team that's making the deal wants to know. And if I'm the Raiders, I'm putting a strong deadline of saying, hey, send me your top offers by this time. Whatever the top offer is, I'm going to take that deal. We got $88.1 million according to Over the Cap. If you move on from Crosby, you add an extra $30.8 million. It's a lot of money. The other really important part about the whole Maxx Crosby contract is his 2027 contract becomes fully guaranteed on the third day of the new league year on March 13th. So, again, to the entire audience out there, I am making this video, and I did these rankings based on the mindset that Maxx Crosby will be traded. So, when you look at this defensive line without the Condor, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the God-honest truth. This is probably the worst defensive line in the National Football League. And if you're like, well, then why the hell would we move on from Maxx? When you got multiple holes on both the offense and the defensive side, by trading away Maxx Crosby, you might be able to turn that one player into 4 to 5 other potential starters, which is what I want Raider Nation to have that mindset of. So when we break down these top players, we're going to go from 5 all the way down to 1. I'm not saying that these players are based on just how good they are. What goes into it is overall fit in our Rob Leonard defense. It's going to go down to price tag, age, all of that gets added into 1. So coming up here, number 5 on my list for Raiders, free agent defensive end targets. I'm going to butcher this guy's name, Arnold Ebiketie. He played for the Atlanta Falcons last season, and if you're looking for upside, I do actually think that Ebiketie here does have some really solid upside at 27 years old. He did only have 2 sacks just a season ago, but I watched this guy at Penn State, and he would be a really interesting fit as a defensive end. I also think that he would be an intriguing option as well as a potential outside linebacker that you could put as a stand-up guy. But he's a really good athlete. He had 6 sacks the year before, but 67 games played, only 12 games started. And he does fit this defense. I figured I would throw this stat in here because I knew a lot of people were going to like it. Last year, again, in a limited role in Atlanta, he had a 16.8% pass rush win rate. For context, Maxx Crosby last season had a 14.4%, which that's pretty good if you ask me. The PFF projected contract, which is going to be the projected contract that you're going to see on all of these players that I break down, 2 years, $16 million, $8 million per year. So if you move on from Maxx, maybe you get a guy like Ebiketie here. Last 4 seasons, you can see the 17 games played. He's been a consistent player. He's never missed a game in his NFL career. The 2024-2023, the sack numbers are really good. The quarterback hits, but how efficient he was. And I've thrown out this name, I don't know how many times since I've done this show, because I always remember when, Benson Mayowa was a great third down blitzer for the Raiders. He had 8 sacks in one season, but he played a limited role. if you're looking for somebody to be able to come in here and probably play like, I'd say 400 to 500 snaps, but really, really help you out getting after the quarterback, this is definitely somebody at age 27 you should keep in mind. Let's go to number 4 here. It's going to be Dre'Mont Jones, who played for the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans last season. At 29 years old, he's coming off a year where he had 7 sacks. The reason why I think that that's interesting, this is actually a career high for him, which that's a good fit. The other really important thing is our brand new Raiders defensive line coach, Travis Smith. He coached Dre'Mont Jones last season because in the first 9 games, he had 4.5 sacks. 4.5 sacks when Travis Smith was the defensive line coach in Tennessee. Mike McCoy also comes from Tennessee, so there is a little bit of that connection there. And I know that the Raiders want versatility, so if you can find somebody that can play that outside linebacker role, that can play that defensive end role, it just gives you more flexibility to figure out, where you're going to put J.J. Pegues, where you're going to put Tonka Hemingway, where you're going to put a Tyree Wilson. If you had a Dre'Mont Jones, it helps fill, I think, a few extra holes that this team, again, desperately, desperately needs. But the 24 quarterback hits there are very eye-popping, and I really thought about putting him higher on this show, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I just can't rank him higher than the 3 other players that I'm going to be talking about because, again, I'm talking about the Raiders trading away Maxx Crosby and you trying to replace him. Does he have AFC West experience? Yes, that does matter to Mark Davis. It does matter to some people in this organization. Our Raiders assistant general manager, Brian Stark, was a part of the Denver Broncos for multiple seasons, so he probably has a little bit more background information on a Dre'Mont Jones. Let's go to number 3 here in our defensive end rankings that the Raiders should pursue in NFL free agency if they do ultimately move on from Maxx Crosby. I'm going to put Trey Hendrickson here at 3. Some people might be shocked that Trey's at 3. And I think if you were to ask a lot of people who's the top defensive end in free agency, it's Trey Hendrickson. Who's the top guy out there? Some people have Trey ranked number 1 overall. The reason why I'm not going to put Trey at number 1 overall is 2 reasons. One, I don't really like how he handled the whole situation in Cincinnati last season. Didn't really get a lot of playing time, only like 285 snaps, I think is what it was. But he did have 35 sacks, and from 2023 to 2024, I believe that he's an elite pass rusher. There have been, though, rumors, and players have come out and said that they think that Trey takes plays off when it's the running game because he's really only focused on getting sacks because a lot of defensive ends know, hey, if I get a lot of sacks, I'm going to be able to go out there and get paid. And I think he's very, very average against the run. The PFF projected contract, 1 year, $21 million. If you told me right now I get Trey Hendrickson on a 1-year prove-it deal, I would rank him number 1. I don't think he signs a 1-year deal because that was like a big gripe that he had with Cincinnati, that he wanted a long-term contract. And I do think that Hendrickson, the way that this market's going to go is there's going to be teams interested in Maxx. If they don't think that they can get Maxx, they're going to shift their attention to Trey. And because Trey's going to know his value, he's going to get a multi-year deal, in my personal opinion. But in 2024, 2023, again, like those numbers, they're jumping off the page. There's no doubt about it. But I do think if you add a defensive end with a 3-4, you need to have somebody that is at least a contributor against the run. And paying a guy the amount of money that we're going to pay Trey to not really show up against the run, I don't know if that's the smartest decision for this organization. Let's go to number 2 here on the list. Well, actually, before we get to number 2 on the list, if there's any Raiders fans out there that are looking to get their hands on some Raiders Report merch, I got a special deal for you. Usually the hat, $24.99. The shirt, usually $24.99. If you put the hat and the shirt both in your cart at chatsports.com/RR shop, you're going to be able to save $10. I want Raider fans, obviously, to get Raiders Report gear because, yeah, it definitely helps me. And if you haven't seen Chugs being a model, go hover over the hat picture on at that link down there below. But the biggest reason why I want people to get Raiders Report gear, I want y'all to introduce yourself to each other. And I think if I saw another Raiders fan wearing a Raiders Report hat, wearing a Raiders Report shirt, I'd go up and I'd introduce myself. I want to take this show to the next level. I want to take this community to the next level. So if you want to get to know other Raiders fans, get your hands on some brand new Raiders Report merch. Let's go to number 2 here, and it's going to be Khalil Mack. If you would have told me that I'd have Khalil Mack ranked this high in my free agent defensive end targets a few weeks ago, I don't think I would have believed you. Like, I really don't think that I would have. And we had a super chat earlier on this program, and it was essentially along the lines of like, it would be a really good PR move for the Raiders if they trade away Maxx Crosby to go out and sign Khalil Mack. And I 100% agree with that statement. Now, I'm not just saying that, like, you don't go out and sign players just for PR stunts. That's just a bad organizational move. But Khalil, from what I understand, is actually contemplating retirement. But I do wonder, could you bring him back to the team that drafted him? Could you bring him back to retire a Raider? And I do think that Mack fits that 3-4 defense. He can line up as an outside linebacker. He's still very good against the run. He's still very good against the pass. He did play under 500 snaps last season, and his snap totals over the past 3 seasons have gone down year after year after year. But to be able to finish his legendary career with the Raiders, I think would be a really, really cool experience. I also think it would soften the blow of a Maxx Crosby trade for Raider Nation. But at 1 year, $14 million, you give him a prove-it year, right off into the sunset, because he did play in only 12 games last season. He's got some injuries, and he's freaking 35 years old. But I know that Khalil Mack is a very well-liked and respected player. I think this would go over extremely well in the locker room. And I think if you bring in Khalil, the Raiders, to me, in my mind, still need to draft a defensive end. Bringing in a Khalil Mack to help groom our next defensive end that we draft. And again, if you trade Crosby, I think that defensive end is going to be either in the first, second, or third round. Groom that player with Khalil Mack and have that two be a dynamic duo to help you replace Maxx Crosby. So let me know down below, which defensive end do you want the Raiders to sign the most? You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, scroll on down, give me your answer, because I think my answer might surprise some people. The number one defensive end that I would want the Las Vegas Raiders to sign in free agency is Jadeveon Clowney. And Clowney, man, has been a really good and underappreciated player on the defensive side of the football over these past few seasons. And I'm down here in Dallas. I've watched a lot more Clowney games just because I got the opportunity to do it. 41 tackles, 8.5 sacks. I get it. He's 33 years old. But you also got to think about where the Raiders are at right now. And I think if you bring in Clowney on a one-year prove-it deal, he's been able to prove to you and all of the NFL that he can go to a brand-new team and succeed right away. I mean, 23.5 sacks over the past 3 seasons. He's played on 7 teams in the last 8 years. Also, only Micah Parsons and Will Anderson Jr. topped his 19.1% pressure rate in 2025. Jadeveon, like early on in his career when he was first coming out, South Carolina, obviously went to the Houston Texans. There was a lot of rumblings that, like, he can't get after the quarterback. He's not getting sacks. He's starting to get sacks now, and also he's so good against the run. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to find a defensive end that is a legit top 20 run stopper. Like, when I think of Maxx Crosby, one of the most underappreciated things that Max does is his impact on the run game. Out of all the defensive tackles that I taught, or defensive ends that I talked about today, Jadeveon Clowney is the best run stopper out of that group. So if you were to ask me, Mitch, who do you think could honestly help us replace Max easily, 1-for-1? Jadeveon Clowney, because of what he provides in the ground game. And in a 1-year contract worth $10 million, sign me the F up. 13 games, 14 games over the past 2 seasons. But to me, when he's out there on the field, he is making an impact, both as getting after the quarterback and against the run, which is what Maxx Crosby has done for the Silver and Black. Now, I do want to throw in some other honorable mentions in here because, again, I didn't really think when I first started breaking down this show that I was going to have a lot of these older defensive ends, and then I realized, I'm like, dude, the defensive ends in this open market here are very, very old. Cameron Jordan has made it clear that he's not going to be going back to New Orleans, or New Orleans is not going to be going back to him. He's already got his hair silver, so I think like that already makes it a little bit easier right there. But Cameron Jordan is a legend, 36 years old. Can you bring him in for a 1-year type of deal? What about Joey Bosa? I know Max and Bosa don't like each other. They've made it pretty well known that they're not fans of each other. Kind of be a little bit of a funny thing to see if this would ultimately be the replacement. But Bosa in back-to-back seasons played over 600 snaps. And I know he's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. He showed last season that he can be healthy. Excuse me. And he showed last season in Buffalo that he can be a consistent player. So I just wanted to throw in those 2 other names right there. Coming up next here, though, on the show, we're going to look at some of the top defensive tackle free agents for the Raiders. And again, 3-4 defense. So we got to figure out what guys maybe we can line up at nose, that we can also line up at defensive end, that we can also line up at defensive tackle. And you're going to be looking for a bunch of those different guys. If anybody out there is looking for an awesome chain, I got the hookup. 50% off. You heard that right. 50% off. How? GLD.com. Use code CHAT. And if you do end up getting a chain from GLD, make sure you tell them that Mitchell Renz from the Raiders Report sent you. That way I can keep on hooking you guys up with some of these awesome deals. But let's face the facts, y'all. Every guy, we all got our go-to pieces. The shoes that go with everything. The one pair of jeans that fit just right. That T-shirt that always looks clean no matter what you pair it with. Well, I also want you to be able to elevate your game. Get one of these awesome GLD chains because they got pennants, bracelets, even a nice selection of watches. Whether you keep it simple or you like a little bit of shine, they got you covered. 2 million customers, 50,000 5-star reviews. Also, GLD offers every price point from the entry-level 18-karat gold plated, which is kind of like the one that I got on right now. They also, though, the piece, it's comfortable. It's, like, not heavy. Like, there's some chains that I've worn, like, low-key. When I had my bachelor party, I bought a bunch of chains. You know, I was like, shit, it's my bachelor party. I was like, let's rock out a little bit. How heavy they were and how clunky they were, I didn't love them. Some of them I loved. Some of them I didn't. With the GLD chain, though, I love versatility, right? If we're looking for versatility in a 3-4 Rob Leonard defense, the versatility of the chain that I have on right now, it's great because I can wear it here to work, right? This is a chain that I can rock at work. I rock it all the time because I want y'all to know I rock with the nation. But at the same time, I can take the Raider emblem off, and then I got a dope gold chain that I can wear out for date night with my wife. My wife loves Raider Nation, but she doesn't want me to wear the Raiders shield when we go out for date night. Bottom line is this. If you believe me, and I hope that you do because I do wear these chains all the time, work hard and change the game. For a limited time only, new customers are getting an insane deal. Use code CHAT, C-H-A-T, to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After you make your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Make sure you tell them Mitchell Renz from the Raiders Report ended up sending you. Let's now get into some of these defensive tackle free agent targets. And some of you might think you know who's going to be number one. It's not the person that I've been putting as my number one defensive tackle free agent target. And it's kind of crazy. I go back and I think about my original top 10 list. It would be completely different based on what we need and what we have right now in a 3-4 defense. Let's go to number 5 here on my list. I'm going to go with DaQuan Jones. Played last season with the Buffalo Bills. And what I love about Jones here is that versatility. This is somebody who you're going to be able to line up as a defensive end, as a nose, as a defensive tackle. And the reason why that's really good is because the Raiders last season, they drafted Tonka Hemingway. They drafted J.J. Pegues. So I think it's really important to, let those players develop. Also, Tyree Wilson has made it very clear to me that he wants to be a 3-tech. Keep on using them there and keep on rotating. The more and more players that we can kind of plug and play, I think the better that this 3-4 Rob Leonard defense is going to be. He's also super well known for being an outstanding veteran. And if you lose your captain, if you lose the face of your franchise, you need to find as much leadership as possible because I do believe that teams take on the identities of their leaders. Just like the Raiders last season, I think that team kind of took on a little bit of an identity of Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. I'm not going to lie. But a 1-year, $4.5 million deal for a player coming off a season, and again, it's not unbelievable, but $4.5 million, DaQuan Jones would be one of the better defensive tackles on our team. Would he be a starter? I hope not. But would he be a good, rotational guy that we'd be able to move in and out with Adam Butler, Jonnu Lalu, Tonka Hemingway, and J.J. Pegues to make sure all of our young guys are staying healthy and, active? Yes, I absolutely believe that. Let's go to number 4 here. It's going to be Sebastian Joseph-Day. Great number. Elite number. But also he's got the connection with Travis Smith. And you're going to hear me say that name multiple times, but Travis Smith is the new defensive line coach now that Rob Leonard is the DC. At 6'4", 310 pounds, a big boy, 30 years old. But I also know that defensive tackle is one of those positions that have proven you can play deep into your late 30s. 483 snaps in back-to-back seasons, who is a good rotational DT. The way that I would want Sebastian Joseph-Day to be used, It's kind of the way like I would want Isaiah Paul-Amau to be used, where I think Isaiah Paul-Amau is an outstanding third safety. Just like I think Sebastian Joseph-Day is a really good third defensive tackle. Do I want Isaiah Paul-Amau to start? No. Do I want Sebastian Joseph-Day to start? No, not really. But because of that connection, 1 year, $6.5 million, that's intriguing to me, and he's been able to show that he can stay healthy. We need consistency. When you have the amount of holes that this Raiders team has from top to bottom, if you're going to go out and you're going to spend, you want to make sure that that guy's healthy, obviously, duh. But because he's got the Mike McCoy and Travis Smith connection, just a little bit of an extra reason why I decided to put him here at number 4. Let's go to number 3, John Franklin Myers. Throughout this entire offseason, I have had John Franklin Myers as my number 1 defensive tackle target for the Las Vegas Raiders. The biggest reason why he's at number 3 now is I don't know if he's as good of a fit in a 3-4 as like what I thought he would have been able to be a fit with Maxx Crosby. Like, in my mind, John Franklin Myers, Maxx Crosby was a lot more intriguing than just John Franklin Myers, if I'm being transparent. 25 tackles, 7.5 sacks last season, but 17.5 sacks the past 2 seasons combined, has only missed the 5 games. It's just the contract. You're going to see how much it's going to cost to go out and get a lot of these different players. 3 years, $45 million, $15 million per year. It is a lot of money, and I know that he's a good pass rusher in terms of the defensive end, defensive tackle position. But I just think that the value does concern me a little bit, and I wonder, can we make better investments in some other areas? Again, like I just didn't know if I like John Franklin Myers as much in our current defensive system. Now, he's played a lot of games. He's been a good player in Denver, but Denver also has a lot of talent on that defensive side of the football, which is I really think also helped him get more one-on-one opportunities. And because he's not the biggest guy in the interior, I'm looking for the big boys on the interior, which is exactly why I have DJ Reader now ranked higher than John Franklin Myers, coming in here at number 2. When you run a 3-4 and when you look at our defensive tackle room, I need guys that eat up space. Eat up space to free up our outside linebackers, to free up our other edge rushers, to be able to go out and get after the quarterback, right? DJ Reader, that's what he's going to do. He hasn't been nearly as good as what he was when he was with, like, Cincinnati. Cincinnati, that was probably prime DJ Reader. Now, at 31 years old, no doubt about it, starting to slow down just a little bit. But I still think that he is an above-average starting defensive tackle who helps you get after the quarterback, helps you in the running game. 3 straight seasons, over 500 snaps played. And if I can get him at $4.5 million, that's a much better value to me than John Franklin Myers. So, I know you're going to look at the numbers that says 0 sacks. I don't really get too concerned about that. I just think about the type of impact player that he is, right? Like, look at DJ Reader as a basketball player who he might only score 8 points a game, but dude's bringing in 12 to 13 boards, and he's a major impact on the defensive side, and he's changing the way guys shoot the ball. DJ Reader makes other players around him better. And when you have as many question marks as we do, we need a guy like Reader. Like, if you like the impact Adam Butler was able to provide, different styles of players, but Reader is a solid guy, no doubt about it. So let me know down in the comments section, which defensive tackle do you want the Raiders to sign the most? Obviously, my number 1 DT is about to come up here on this program. So before you get hit with that YouTube ad break, don't wait until you see my answer. I want you to let me know down below the number 1 defensive tackle you want the Raiders to go out and get. The number 1 tackle that I want the Raiders to sign in free agency, David Onyemata. And this is somebody that I've had ranked on my show before. I never had him ranked at number 1. At 6'3", 300 pounds, what he was able to do for Atlanta last season, again, he's getting up there in age, 33 years old, but I've learned that defensive tackles can play mid-30s, late 30s, 62 tackles last season, 7 tackles for loss. The reason why I really like this signing here is he is really good against the run. Top 10 against the run last season, according to PFF, 74.2 run grade. Also, that great fit in a 3-4 defense. Defensive end, defensive tackle. He's going to be able to line up over the center. He's going to be able to line up against the guard. He's going to be able to line up against offensive tackle. The PFF projected contract of 1 year, $3.5 million. I did think that was a little bit low. He might end up getting a little bit more money, no doubt about it. But, like, it's consistency. And I want to know that I'm getting consistency at that position. And if I don't have to break the bank, if I can still have him be a great veteran presence, he would be, in my personal opinion, the the best defensive tackle that we have on our roster. And, a lot of those guys that I just showed probably would be the best defensive tackle that we have on the roster. But just like I showed for defensive ends, I do want to show y'all an honorable mention. And I always say Father Time is undefeated. I don't know, bro. Calais Campbell might be able to beat Father Time. He's still playing at like a legit top 15, top 10 defensive tackle in the NFL. 39 years old. He's still able to get after the quarterback. He is a mountain of a human being in terms of PB, like just breaking up passes. He's a monster in the run game. He can still get after the quarterback. Calais Campbell, I have to add him here to this list because the only way I would bring him in is on a one-year deal. But if Calais Campbell would be interested in joining the Raiders, I think people would be crazy not to want Campbell to be on this roster. So one more time here. We're looking for Maxx Crosby replacements at the defensive line position, whether it's defensive end and defensive tackle in free agency. I believe Jadeveon, Clowney, Khalil, Mack are my top two options. Then there's a tier gap there with Trey Hendrickson, and then there's another tier gap there with Dre'Mont Jones and then Arnold. Then you look at the defensive tackles. DaQuan Jones, Sebastian Joseph-Day, tier gap. John Franklin Myers, tier gap. DJ Reader, David Onyemata. That's how I look at all of these defensive linemen. Again, you're not going to be able to replace Maxx Crosby 1v1. The way that you should look at it is, all right, if I move on from Max, when I ultimately move on from Max, I'm going to save $30 million. How do I use that $30 million? And how do I use that draft capital to make sure that we do our best to replace 98? If you enjoyed today's show, huge shout out to you. You can always give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter on Mitchell Renz 365. And friendly reminder out there, I am going to be live a ton, and I mean a ton during NFL free agency. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 20-plus hours. I expect to see the real ones there.